everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Thursday to those of you guys who are watching this the day that it airs. I hope your week has been going well. I'm back at it with another video, and I want to take a look at Venus's move through the sign of Virgo because we're going to be having this ingress pretty soon. I'm calling this video Love is a Verb. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you click the bell button below so you're alerted as to when I have new videos out on the channel. We're here putting out videos almost every other day. You can catch me throughout the week for some of these astro musings. Fridays we do live readings, and we have astro weather on Sunday. Lots of content has been put on the channel for you guys to give you so much information about the month of October. Just as a reminder, I do go in depth into this for the 12 signs, so make sure you check that video out. It is on the playlist, as well as the solar eclipse in Libra, because some of these aspects kind of come up through this, but today I really want to focus on Venus. I want to talk to you guys about why this is so important. So make sure you guys drop me a comment below, give me a thumbs up, let me know how you're feeling about this transit. Do you have Venus in Virgo or Venus in the 6th house? And what kind of cosmic advice can you give those of us who are watching the video today? So Venus in Virgo, love is a verb. We're going to be seeing Venus move into the sign on October 8th in the PM hours. And Venus will be moving through this particular sign from October the 8th through November the 8th, 2023. So we have 1 month of this transit. This will be affecting my Taurus, Virgo, and Libra risings the most. Or if you happen to have a natal Venus in Virgo, you'll be having your natal Venus return. So why do I say love is a verb? Okay, so it's not something that you feel, but it's something that you do. And that's really what this transit is going to be teaching all of us. Virgo is a mutable sign. It's the 6th sign of the zodiac. It's an earth sign, and it's very practical, right? Virgo is associated with Mercury, which is about being of service and cleaning things up and making things kind of perfect. So this is about taking action when it comes to those that we love, the things that we love, health, pets, all that fun stuff that Virgo rules. Now, not to get biblical on you guys, but I did go to Christian school. I don't often talk about that. And I also studied theology at one point in my life. I wanted to be a nun. Very Venus in Virgo, right? I have Venus at 6 degrees, so I resonate with a lot of this, and also in an earth sign. But it reminds me a lot of the passage from Corinthians, and I would like to read it to you. So those of you guys who are not religious, I understand, but I believe that it can be helpful sometimes referencing various religious texts, because I do believe that some of this can be universal. So, let me do my thing. I'm sure some of you guys might know this by heart. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. That's a big theme, right? Especially when we're talking about a sign that is about service. It is about recognizing that love is not perfect, that relationships are not easy, that health does not just come easily, that you have to work hard for it. Similarly to working hard to taking care of your plants or tending to your animals, or whatever it is that you nurture or you take care of. Hard work, right, sometimes can be a form of love, showing love for yourself and for other people. And so the reason why I bring this up is because I feel like there's so much truth in that passage. Mercury is associated with Virgo, and Mercury is about information and facts and figures. And I think we're in a day and age where truth is hard to come by, especially truth revolving around what it means to truly be in love, what it means to show love and compassion to other people, to love unconditionally. And I found myself talking to clients a lot about this recently, about situations in relationships where throughout the summer, there's been a lot of issues with ultimatums and lots of drama, right? We've seen Venus go through through Leo. And it's been in several squares to Jupiter, which can be about our philosophies about, money, resources, relationships. It's also been in a square to Uranus. So we've kind of had this ping pong match all summer long where there's been highs and lows and ups and downs. And now we're coming out of it. And the Venus in Virgo transit, I think, is going to be the fruit of whatever has kind of gone down for the last few months. Now, what I love about Venus in Virgo, putting her in the spotlight, obviously, she's going to be the ruler of 2 eclipses this month in October, both the solar eclipse in Libra, which is very strongly tied to the south node of releasing and letting something go, and the north node in Taurus, which is about building into something that can be providing life and substance and resources and connection to the earth and being strongly grounded in something. But Venus going through this sign reminds me of the Virgin. And not many of you guys may know the background in regards to why the Virgin is associated with Virgo. But back in the day, the idea of the Vesta Virgins were more so about self-possession, right? It was not being married to somebody, not feeling like you have to take care of somebody, that you have to be somebody's wife, or you have to have some kind of like status in the world. It was about wholeness and belonging to no one, following in your own path. And I do feel like it's interesting watching it come out of Leo, and this is where Venus becomes more mature. She's less self-focused, she's grounded, she's considerate, and this is a sign that has associations with efficiency and purity, purifying something, making something clean. And so what I love about Venus in Virgo and 6th house Venus placements in general is loving oneself, loving one's routines, that it is important to take care of oneself through your habits and your day-to-day life. And so there is this focus when Venus is in Virgo to not want to depend on anyone or anything. There can be this sense of inner integrity and needing to provide for oneself. And I think that we're going to get to observe this throughout the next couple of weeks. Self-sufficiency is going to be the key. That's going to be what's really helpful for you. So you want to take a look at what house Virgo is. Find out which house that is, and I'll take you guys through the 12 signs at the end. But that is going to be the area of your chart where you're learning to be more self-sufficient, or you're learning to give it a little bit more love or a little bit more care. Now, unfortunately, the other side of this is that Venus is moving through a sign where it is debilitated, right? So we're seeing Venus moving through its fall. It's moving through a sign that is associated with Mercury, where it wants to kind of take things apart or have options, or it wants to be more intellectual. And that's a challenging place for Venus to be, because Venus doesn't want to focus on words, right? Venus wants to focus on what is going to bring pleasure, what's going to bring, harmony, what's going to feel good. It doesn't always do well talking about its feelings, although Venus in Virgo may sometimes want to relate and let people know that checking in on them is a way of kind of showing love or affection, or relaying information, or telling them what they kind of need to kind of straighten up. Anyway, when Venus moves through a part of the skies where it's debilitated, essentially Venus is being faced with the reality of something, right? And it can be the harshness of what the real world brings, especially in relationships. We can face some things that are uncomfortable. So we're going to be focusing on what love is really made of, and the nitty-gritty parts of relationships. And obviously, because Venus is the ruler of the South Node in Libra, relationship realities are going to be the focus. And I think many of us are going to be having to look at our relationships and really doing the work that we need to do. We may also be more aware of some issues in relationships that may not necessarily be healthy for us. So that can be coming up here as well. Now, I think it's also going to have just generally themes revolving around looking at the lower class or underprivileged people. Watching Venus go through her, debilitation is going to bring up issues revolving around people not having jobs, not having resources, not having food, not having health care. These are going to be big topics that are going to be going on throughout this particular cycle. And as we know, Virgo is very practical, calculated. It's connected to rearranging something, perfecting something, creating systems. So also, I think we're going to be hearing more about through this transit, and as Venus makes aspects with a lot of outer planets out in the skies, what we're doing to better nurture these systems and how we can perfect these systems and how we can take better care of our health in a natural way, right? So what I love also is that, Virgo has associations with grain. And if you look at like traditional texts of, depictions of Virgo, you see her with grain in her hair, or maybe she's holding grains. And I think that we're going to hear a lot more also about like food and resources throughout this particular transit. I wonder if this is going to be more revolving around grocery stores and, being able to get food to places. And if there are shortages or if we see issues with certain products not being on the shelves, that can definitely kind of come up. And Venus here is about being able to feed and nurture ourselves, right? Sustaining ourselves. So I think it's going to have a lot of us thinking about what are we eating and where does our food come from and how was it cultivated and what's really in it. And do I have enough of the food that I need? Do I need to be looking at my pantries and my shelves? Do I have things that I could donate if I have excess to help people in need? But equally, if you're in a situation where you need support or you need resources, where do you get them from? So, just some food for thought, depending on where you guys are in all of this. The bottom line is that because love is a verb, it's about helping other people and showing other people love and appreciation, being able to help those in need and not being conditional in our relationships. Tit for tats are over. We're not doing the drama that we were doing when it was in Leo. Now we're realizing that when tough or difficult things happen, whether that's health-related issues or not having enough resources or not having a job, it's going to start to show some people what our relationships are really made of. And it can be difficult when you strip all of that drama and ego away from when it was in Leo and it moves through this sign where we cannot have superficial love. That's not necessarily going to be working. Now, Virgo was not originally a virgin. I guess that's really where I was going a second ago. But like I said, someone who belonged to no one. She was considered to be self-kept, and she had high standards, right? And focus on oneself. Well, somewhere along the way, the Catholic Church obviously had to do away with that concept of a self-sufficient female. And Virgo was changed into this hygienic and kind of prudish type zodiac sign that we know today. Well, many Virgos, I think, will tell you that that's not necessarily the case. Whether you're a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, or a 6th house Venus, or stellium in the 6th house, you know that that's not really how it works. There's generally a sense of wanting to kind of try everything to see what you like and you don't like, and then deciding for yourself if it's a bad habit or if it's something that's not clean or if it's in excess in some way, shape, or form. You guys figure out what needs to be eliminated, basically. Now, this is also a transit that is going to deal a lot with physical health as well as mental health. So I'm not going to X this out. I don't think it's any one particular form of health that we're going to be looking at. I believe it's really mind, body, spirit, right? While Virgo is the mind, body is that earth sign. Venus can be about the physical state of the body. And the spirit are all the oppositions that we're seeing to Pisces, where we have Saturn and Neptune in opposition. Here we start to realize we're lack of nutrition, lack of good health care, good awareness when it comes to our health, and perhaps steering away from big pharma, right? From being reliant on certain systems or certain kind of recommendations, where we're going more in the direction of, well, let's do something homeopathic, or let's do something natural, or let's make our own food, might be potential good options, especially moving into the future. Now, Virgo and the connections to the 6th house is a little rocky. Venus, going through this sign, some of the traditional astrologers will tell you a Venus in the 6th house in a natal chart or a Venus in the 6th house transit can definitely bring lots of issues in relationships. The 6th house also had associations with slavery, servants, and personal illness. So, it was considered to be challenging to have some of these placements. And back in the day, we saw illness as something that was more a consequence of sinful behavior. When in reality, I think Venus through the 6th house or through Virgo really wants us to learn about the mind-body connection, realize that mind influences body, the way that we're thinking, what we're exposed to, what we're reading, what we're seeing on the internet, what we're hearing, what we're talking about, has an effect on our physical body. It becomes habits. And in the oppositions to Saturn and Neptune, it's how it affects our spirit, how it affects the collective. Now, a huge theme, I think, with Venus in Virgo for me, and how I like to use when Venus goes through my 6th house, is focusing on self-improvement. So another way to look at this transit is self-improvement and personal growth. So even if Venus isn't going through her 6th house, it's still going to have that flavor of, okay, well, this is a bit of a mess, or this is what we need to clean up, or this is what we need to kind of tend to. So there can be a series of obstacles that can come up. Bad habits definitely come up that can hinder our progress in self-development and in self-care. But you want to look to some of the trines that will be made to pretty much all of the outer planets, Jupiter, Uranus, and Pluto, as ways or periods where you're going to see transformations or changes that might kind of come about. Now, yes, Venus in Virgo has a malefic reputation, but really, like I said, it's about service, maintenance, taking care of what we have, keeping it functioning, especially the human body and the various systems. So we're going to realize that schedules are important, right? Making ourselves aware of how much time we're spending doing things. How much time are we spending in broken relationships, crying over things that aren't working, kind of not really reaching for the love that we deserve? How much time are we spending consuming things that might not be, beneficial for us, whether that's what we're eating or what we're reading or what we're listening to or what we're watching? Cleaning, sleep, healthcare, wellness. These are the things that I want you guys to think about and look at this as an opportunity to add a little bit of love in the process of doing some problem solving. Now, I also feel like with oppositions to Saturn, we're going to be aware of our limits and our boundaries. With oppositions to Neptune, which you will see, we're going to be seeing where there can be a sense of overly idealizing something or maybe not necessarily getting the love or the resources that we need. I think the pros of this transit is service, healing, and awareness. Putting in the work, okay? That's what this is about, putting in the work. I joked in my eclipse video, I said, here, I love you, here's some soup, right? And some of you guys thought that was funny, but quite literally, Venus in Virgo can mean I folded your clothes, I went to the grocery store, I washed the dog, I fixed your collar, I edited your email for you, and it can seem kind of nitpicky. It can, because that's what Venus in Virgo is here to do. They're particular because they strive for perfection. So we can see in relationships that there can be a sense of people being a little nitpicky and, people being particular and us starting to kind of realize what may or may not be working in relationships. And even if you're not in relationships, it can be relationships to people you work with, because Virgo has associations with coworkers, your healthcare team as well, and providers. We could see some changes or some issues in regards to relationships with these people as well. But I think with Venus in detriment, throughout this transit, the challenged expression is really showing us where something is kind of out of balance, right? Remember, the South Node is in Libra. And through the tension and the discomfort that can kind of come through, it's requiring a little bit more effort, a little bit more TLC, and it can give us the opportunity to kind of better balance this out and integrate this. Now, why is this important? Well, for starters, Venus is, you know, is the South Node ruler. It's connected to the eclipses. Next, it's going to go into Libra, and we're going to see other aspects to the South Node. So there still is this kind of like karmic undoing, releasing, letting go. I've seen this a lot collectively. There's a lot of people breaking up, a lot of people separating, divorcing. It's just what happens when we see a Venus retrograde or when we see the South Node in Libra, because we start to realize what isn't working because it's getting in the way of the direction of where we need to go on a personal level, North Node in Aries. So throughout this transit, you guys are going to see some stuff that's going to change, break down, kind of not work. There's going to be some problems, but it will get a little bit easier when Venus gets into Libra. So I am optimistic about that. I also believe what's kind of getting cleared out now is getting cleared out so that way we can receive some of the goodies that we're going to be getting in the spring of next year as planets go through the sign of Aries. Now, where is Venus going to be happier? Libra next month. She's also, I think, going to do very well when she moves through her exaltation when she's in Pisces, although she's going to have to meet up with Saturn and Neptune. But those are the two placements that I'm excited for the most. And then the big, you know, changes that are going to be taking place in the spring of 2024 as Venus is actually coming into conjunction with Jupiter in the final moments in the last degrees of Taurus. Huge financial and economic changes are coming in the spring. So right now, I want you guys to be paying attention to what's not working. What's not working with my accountant? What's not working with my bank? What's not working with my healthcare practitioners? This is where you really need to wake up and kind of go, okay, I need to tend to these areas. Now, Venus and Virgo archetypes, because Venus has associations with women, right? Venus, or femininity, or anything in regards to the goddess. As we see her go through the sign of Virgo, you're going to see specific archetypes that Venus will be kind of coming through out in the world. And if you happen to be somebody who is involved in any of these particular businesses, you might notice that it's just going to be a little bit more active. Venus going through the sign of Virgo is going to bring a huge focus of women who serve, okay? So we think of Venus, it could be like women who are in the service or who are in the military, nurses, right, who are kind of on the front lines helping kind of heal and take care of other people. But I also think of pharmacists, herbalists, and people who serve in other ways, who might heal and take care of animals and work for veterinary offices or centers. I think of hairstylists and people who are in the service industry, who do your hair, do your nails, people who are cleaning teeth, people who are cleaning houses. I think of people who work at grocery stores. I think of people who also have connections to hospitality and hotels, but also sex work, okay? Because it's transactional. Virgo is about what's transactional. And that is also going to be a theme that we're going to be probably hearing about a little bit as well. So you'll see these probably in the headlines. And for me, some stuff that was like coming up that I was marinating on is like, okay, what could happen throughout some of these transits? Well, doubting your value, right? That's a theme. When you see Venus in the 6 transits, we can doubt our value sometimes. Natal Venus placements can have that there as well. Doubting our beauty, right? How attractive we are, or doubting our relationships, and self-esteem issues can definitely arise here. But I think also for me, it's who we are in relationships without all the bells and whistles, without all the superficial stuff. If Venus makes oppositions to Saturn and Neptune, and we start to see that there are certain things that we can't afford, right? People are facing some real economic challenges right now with some stuff going on in the world. And I could see some people going, I'm not going and getting my nails done. I'm not, doing my highlights every month. I'm not going and buying the newest fashion trends. I can't afford to, be able to have a new pair of shoes. Or I can't give that to the people that I love. And then we start to see, well, how is the relationship going without all of those things? Without the extras, the filters, the extravagance? Do we still have a good, solid relationship? Are we still valuing each other? Are we treating each other well? Or are our relationships conditional? So we're going to see what love is really made of throughout this. And yes, personal relationships can suffer, but I also think that we can start to see where we learn to appreciate those who stick by us in hard times. When we're sick, who takes care of us? Or when we're in need, who stops by and considers us and drops off food, medication, quality time. Now, definitely, I think we could definitely see an uptick with drug dealing, prostitution, right? That can be a theme, especially with the aspects to Neptune. I think that it will be illuminating issues with pharmacies. Could there be medication limitations or shortages? Yeah, there could. But I think we're also going to see holes in the healthcare system. I've been saying this, I've been screaming this from the rooftops since last year when I talked about the Mars North Node Uranus conjunction. I said, learn how to be self-sufficient. Learn how to use herbal remedies. If you don't already have a book on that, pick one up. Go and find an aromatherapist or go and find an herbalist, a nutritionist, healers, coaches, trainers. These are the people who are going to be helping you the most, because you got to think about this. Venus has connections to Taurus, people who grow food, people who work with money, right? Venus has connections to Libra, coaches, therapists, astrologers. We're going to be seeing across the board, this isn't just about what is and is not working in our romantic relationships. Some people are going to fire their accountants. Some people are going to have to let staff go. Some people are going to realize that they are switching banks, or they're switching grocery stores, or they're making changes with their therapists. So it's not limited to just Virgo. Now, some things to remember is that this is the finale of what has been a really weird and wacky Venus retrograde. Throughout the retrograde, really since the shadow started in June, we saw Venus through Leo, loud, proud, dramatic, creative, making squares to Jupiter and also Uranus. So it has made all of the drama feel amplified. It has definitely brought sparks with the squares to Uranus, where we're realizing that there's some stress tests in financial systems. There's some stress tests also when it comes to our relationships. And a lot of it is because of issues in regards to personal values. Taurus is conservative, while Leo is very proudful and very boastful. So I think people have been spending money like it's going out of style. I think people are going to realize that the emergency brake is being thrown right now. We may, here in the United States at least, have bought another month before we have to go back into negotiations in November about the budget issue. But also, people are starting to have to pay for their student loans again. We're starting to see, I think we're going to see more issues with job layoffs. I don't like saying that, but Venus in Virgo with oppositions to Saturn and Neptune is telling me certain industries are going to kind of get hit. And we're going to start to realize that I don't think we're as strong in Q3 as we thought we were. Now, Venus also rules the eclipses all month long. We're going to have one that's going to be on the 14th, one on the 28th. And Venus is moving through Virgo. So even though the eclipses are in Libra and Taurus, we're looking at Virgo, because where Venus is and how she is aspected during those eclipses is going to be giving us an idea of what needs more love, what needs TLC, where do we need to be taking action, cleaning something up, tending to it, giving it more attention, because it suggests that the events or the actions in this part of our chart are actually dissolving what's going on with the South Node and showing us what is changing with Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. Now, Venus, connection to the South Node in Libra, breakdown in relationships, letting go of relationship karma, letting go of injustices, right? And Venus is also the dispositor of planets that are in Libra, okay? And planets that are in Taurus, because Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Libra is ruled by Venus. So here's how to look at the transits in a more advanced way. If those of you guys watch my channel, you're learning about astrology, just knowing what Venus in a sign or a house is awesome. That tells me that you at least know how to best work with and channel that energy. To take it a step further, we look at aspects. This is a fancy way of saying how planets communicate with each other. Are they giving each other a high five? Are they fighting? Are they ignoring each other? So hard aspects are generally challenging versus harmonious aspects like trines, sextiles are a little bit easier to work with. So we're going to look at the aspects, but to take it up a notch, we talk about Venus being the dispositor. So Venus has connections to Taurus and Libra. So when Venus inevitably makes trines to Taurus, some of these things going on with Venus not being so happy in Virgo is going to be shining a light on these Jupiter, Uranus, and Taurus issues. Agriculture, food, environment. Okay, these are things I want you guys to think about. Banking. And then 2, Libra. What does Libra rule? Relationships, law, legality. Planets in Libra will square Pluto. Power struggles. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of aspects from October 9th through the 24th, especially. So that's why it's so important to be really aware of when planets are squaring Pluto, when stuff is trining Taurus, because it's going to give us like a fuller picture. Working with dispositors is really helpful in giving you like an extra layer. So hopefully that made sense. And remember that Mars, Sun, Mercury, and Venus will all inevitably come into a square with Pluto. So even when Venus leaves Virgo, she's still going to come into a square with Pluto eventually, and that's also going to kick up some more stuff. But when we see squares from Libra, and that's actually starting, that's going to be taking place, Mars square Pluto will begin just as Venus goes into Virgo on the 8th. When we see squares from Libra to Pluto in Capricorn, it's going to be about fighting for justice, fighting for fairness, fighting for balance, regards to Venus in Virgo, health services, and also some kind of enforcement, government enforcement. Capricorn is government. So you're going to see lots of things going on in courtrooms revolving around what is and is not fair, balanced, legal. And so I'm curious to see how it plays out. Like I said, we're going to see oppositions to Saturn and Neptune. Saturn is limits or rules. Neptune is illness, virus, hospitals, migration, and the masses. So there's a lot to unpack here. I know it sounds like a bit complex, but we're going to kind of go through it step by step together, and then we'll get into the 12 rising signs. So let's start first with October 8th, 2023. This is when Venus is going to first move into Virgo. Like I said, a lot going on here at this time. I'm curious to see, first of all, what's going to happen in the markets this day. I don't even know what day the 8th is. I guess I should know that, huh? Okay, so that's Sunday. So coming into what will inevitably be Monday. Pull my notes back up. Here we go. Okay. But I say this because the moon is moving through Leo and it's going to square Jupiter and Uranus. So you best believe you want to be watching what's going on early Monday morning pre-market or any news going on in the world on Sunday, because the stock market is Leo and the moon is squaring these planets which are ruled by Venus. Whenever we see Saturn coming into an opposition with Venus, right? And that happens, we see a Saturn-Venus opposition once a year. We see squares happen on both sides before the conjunction. To me, it can represent separation or limitation of what? Money. Venus is money, what we eat, what we spend. But Venus in Virgo, I think, is going to be job numbers. It's the health of the economy, the health of the workforce, the health of women, the health of whatever, fill in the blank, whatever Virgo type thing you want to look at. I've been hearing recently about states that are, or cities, I guess I should say, that's passing legislation revolving around Airbnbs. And they're saying that they're wanting to do this because it's raising up the prices of like rent and, property values and stuff in some cities, making it difficult for people to be able to own or rent. And so I immediately was like, oh, Venus in Virgo, this is about hospitality. And there's some crazy rules, I think, coming out of New York City, where they're saying things like you must, if you rent an Airbnb, you cannot be there. You have to be there the whole time. Like, you're not supposed to leave the Airbnb. Like, you have to actually be in that space. And there's like a limit to how many people can rent, and there's like a limit to how long you can rent. Any long-term rentals, I think over like 3 or 4 weeks, is different. So it's not for anything that's going to be other than like shorter stays with Airbnb. But they're trying to make it, I think, more difficult for that to happen. And I was like, is it like the hotel industry? Like, what's going on? I don't know if it's environmentally connected or not, so I don't want to speculate. But part of me was like, Is this because they're also trying to, you know, keep some of that stuff down with like carbon stuff? I was just questioning that myself. We'll see. And that's something else that, you know, I didn't really mention, but the mutable signs do deal with weather, okay? They're the changing of seasons. So where Gemini can be much more about like wind and things revolving around that, Virgo can be about physical changes in the weather. Sagittarius, I think, can also be about like excess like heat. And obviously Pisces can deal with like water. It's the water element. And so I've been thinking about, oh, what's going on with like, these places in New York City and like flooding? And are we going to hear that, you know, certain businesses had basements that were flooded, or, you know, businesses that were flooded and it inhibited them from working? And are people being reimbursed for that? Or are people, you know, getting laid off? Are we seeing people getting sick because of water or because of water damage or mold? These are things that can happen with this stuff. So, like I said, Venus having its connections to Jupiter and Uranus, I think we're going to be hearing more about how there may be new implementation of health regulations with some of these businesses, or excess costs or fees or cleaning fees or things like that with some of these businesses. Okay, so Venus comes into Virgo, and you guys will start to feel this pretty early, because you're going to see it's within a 1-degree opposition to Saturn. Now, if you've been following my videos this summer, you know that Venus went all the way up to 28 degrees and then it turned retrograde. So it did not cross that 29-degree threshold into Virgo. So it's been stopped short of this opposition. Now, what is Saturn, right? It can represent top-down structures, governments, you know, things that are meant to be kind of holding things together. It can be the glue, right? Foundations. And Saturn retrograde, it's being revealed to us now that this may be an emperor has no clothes moment. Some of the people or organizations or institutions or leaders in which we thought were protecting us, we are starting to realize may not really know how to protect us, or they're maybe not allocating funds the best way, or they may not be totally aware of what's going on, or there are some things happening behind the scenes. Pisces, that's actually like not helping the economy. That's not providing jobs. That's not really helping the environment. That's not actually safe and effective. That's the term, right? Not safe and effective. So I'm curious about how this is going to play out as we see Venus go into a sign that's about illness and sickness. That's what Venus in Virgo is. So that opposition happens, and then hours later, the moon starts coming into Virgo as well. So you're going to see the Venus-Saturn opposition happen on October 10th, and then the moon's going to pop in. So on October 10th in the morning, and the moon is a trigger. The moon triggers where things are happening for all of us and the moods that we're going through. And many astrologers would say Moon Venus, that's a wonderful connection. You know, you wake up, you want to have a sweet pastry, you want to hold hands, you want to be with your partner, you want to take a stroll through the park and smell the flowers. But Venus is in Virgo. So it means collectively people are going to be like, oh, shift is hitting the fan when it comes to Virgo related things. Mars just coming out of a square with Pluto. Mars is the dispositor of, right, of the North Node. So this can be indicating that there's some potential war energy, there's some conflicts, there's some fighting, people having issues or power struggles, who's in charge, yelling and screaming, kind of getting into it with relationships. Mars is in Libra, so this is fights among partners over what? Who's in control? Who has a say about things? Who is and is not working enough hours to pay the bills? Whatever, whatever. So Moon Venus comes together and immediately opposes Saturn. So make a note. October 10th in the morning, pretty much all day, but in the morning, you're gonna feel the pull of being on two separate sides of a situation, or feeling isolated or separated. For me, it's like, this is the day I've been waiting for, where if you've been going back and forth with a partner all summer, you might finally like hit that, okay, I'm done, I'm at my wit's end, I can't do this, like we're done here. It may be a situation where you go to move money or receive funds or say, hey, you know, where's my paycheck? And it's like, oh, there's a delay. You know, sorry, we can't get it to you right now. It's not available. Remember, Venus has connections to Jupiter and Uranus. So this has to do with banking. This has to do with food. And yeah, I'm not wild about this opposition. We might hear that there's going to be limits on something, or that, you know, there is some funds that we cannot allocate to something, or we cannot get it to where it needs to go. So the opposition starts with a bang, basically, or the ingress starts with a bang. Then we're not going to see too much happening for a couple days. We're going to see on the 22nd, and I guess I should say in the background, that while, you know, the Sun-Mercury conjunction is happening and the squares to Pluto are happening, where there's exchange and information with partners and relationships and, you know, whatever, we're discussing what we do and we don't like and what's not working for us. And we're still coming off of the Venus-Saturn opposition. So even though Venus isn't doing anything yet, we're still feeling the impacts of that debilitated Venus, as all these planets through Libra represent. There's a lot of action, relationships, and breakdown. Now, we will see on the 22nd, Venus trine Jupiter retrograde at 12 degrees. Okay? And where the opposition that we saw between Venus and Saturn was at a 1. So it was what we are removing ourselves from, what we are cutting off or separating, what we are quickly moving away from, or getting rid of what's not good for us. It's like, that's the day where you throw the cookies in the trash can. That's the day that I'm going to throw my cookies in the trash can, clean out all the sugar. Or you know, clean house when it comes to your emotions or your feelings, or that's when you say, okay, you know, I'm doing juicing all day. It's going to be something about, you know, getting rid of what we like but we know isn't good for us. Then we get to the 21st and we have Jupiter and Venus trine. So generally, trines are harmonious aspects. Venus is about love and harmony and relationships and money. Remember though, trines can be like too much of something. It can be like, it's a Jupiter energy. It's like the floodgates open. So 12 degrees represents things that are hidden, stuff that also can involve the ocean, videos, photography, stuff in our dreams, our subconscious. It can also deal with drugs, narcotics, right? Especially Venus in Virgo. And so Venus is going to trine Jupiter. And Venus is the dispositor of Jupiter. And what's going on with the moon? Well, the moon's conjunct Pluto. So coming into like the 20th, right, 21st, you're going to see these trines. And I'm wondering if we're going to be hearing more about some kind of breakdown with money and federal spending, you know, certain departments running out of money, you know, where is money, you know, being reallocated? Where can we bring in more? Does money go missing? Some kind of resource issue. I would look for that. But Venus trine Jupiter is big opportunities with love, money, resources, right? But I think that for me, this is like learning to kind of go, what is my intuition telling me I should consume or should not consume? What is my intuition telling me that I should be maybe putting in my pantry? Or, you know, what should I be taking preventatively so I'm taking care of my immune system? This is what we're healing, and this is what we're eating. This is what we're buying, and this is what we're kind of like assessing. So I could definitely see a lot of people, especially people who like to prep or who like to keep their pantry stocked, or people who, you know, want to be trying to figure out, okay, you know, what do I need to have in my medicine cabinet? Or getting kind of prepared for. But you guys are prepared because you watch astrology in advance, so you know this stuff is coming, so you don't panic. Because astrology, if you're getting to where you're watching astrological videos and you're panicking, you're not using astrology the right way. That's when you really want to look at things and go like, you know, am I over analyzing this? Am I psyching myself out? So much of what's going on in the month of October is about creating your own reality and not being afraid, being prepared, being forewarned that you have the ability to focus on your health in natural ways. that you don't have to give into the paranoia and the fear and the things that are invisible. Focus on how you can start taking better care of your health and your body now, so you're not kind of hitting this panic mode at the end of October that may potentially come up, because I do kind of think that's what's coming. So can this be a day where prices can go up? Yes, food can go up and it can be more costly for things. You might see some dramatic jumps. We might also hear more about international exchanges and what we can and cannot get, and where things might become more expensive. Then this is going to take us to the 26th. And on the 26th, this is when we're going to see Venus in conjunct Chiron in Aries. Don't sleep on this transit. Chiron, which deals with healing oneself, the moon's going to slide in there, and we're going to see this uncomfortable angle between the two. Technically, it's going to happen at 16 degrees, so it's about home, what we have in our home, what we're eating, what we're doing for our family, what we're doing for our pets. It can be a day with Venus in conjunct Chiron where there's some health-related issues because we're not taking action. And of course, the moon's going to be there too. So it's like the universe's way of being like, get on with it, I have a natal moon in Aries. I'm sure I've told you guys this. And I've noticed every single time the moon goes through Aries and it comes into conjunction with Chiron, granted it's getting close to my natal moon, there's like weird things happening, like migraines, cuts, burns, fevers. My husband got a spider bite right on his face right around the last time that the conjunction happened. And I was like, of course, this would happen, like right there. And I'm sitting there with a migraine and I have like a pack on my eye and he's sitting there with like, something on his face. And I'm like, this is just, you can't make this stuff up. So I want you guys to be paying attention to what's going on with your head. Where's your head at? How's your head feeling? Are we experiencing fevers? If so, what are you doing to tend to that, maybe in a natural way, right? I've just been really hardcore about steering away from using Tylenol and Advil and any, stuff that you can get on the shelves that has that stuff in it. Personal preference, that's just me. Obviously, I have a French bulldog who's super naughty and he'll get into things and he needs a Benadryl. And I know there are times where if you have a sprain or a strain and you need to take an aspirin or something, you need to take it. But I started taking white willow bark personally. It's been really helpful for migraines. It's been really helpful for aches and pains. I've also started using salves with like yarrow and other things that are in it, calendula, other things for scrapes, bruises. I've been big on using arnica, and that's just been how I've been using some of the transits going through Virgo personally. But I think that, some of us are going to be kind of looking at things being like, well, if we don't have what we need, what do I need to do to get it? And you don't want to be coming to the end of October trying to scramble to do these things. So I would recommend maybe getting some stuff and having some stuff prepared in the off chance that cold and flu season hits or something comes up and you need it, right? And I don't talk about this a lot, but if you look at the links below in my description, it says book list. You can click that. It'll take you to the books that I use on my channel, but there's other lists there too. And I put all the supplements and the things that I use personally because I've been building like a homeopathic kind of natural arsenal. Anyway, check with your doctor before you make any changes to your health or any interactions with medication. Obviously, I don't give medical advice, but I do like to use the natural products when I can. And I have lots of goodies there if you're like, hey, what could I potentially pick up? All right, so this in conjunct means they don't see each other, okay? So there could be something that we don't see coming that can impact our health personally. This is also ruled by Mars, the moon Chiron North Node. And Mars is real close to Mercury, which can definitely be about inflammation of lungs, infections, right? Scorpio, of lungs, problems with breathing. Also, Mars is in its home sign. We're going to see oppositions to Jupiter and Uranus. So this can definitely be bringing some issues revolving around fevers or anger, frustration, meltdowns, definitely with Mars and Scorpio. That can be a theme as well. And then on the 29th, we're going to see Venus conjunct Lilith. Now, we've seen this a couple times, right? We've seen this a couple times. Throughout the Venus retrograde, we saw that go down. I remember talking about that in my webinar, being like, you're going to see some stuff where like celebrities are going to break up and people are going to come out and do some scandalous things and you know, like make accusations about third parties, or, you know, there being some big drama about people trying to release some stuff and expose people. And it happened. Lilith represents that raw, primal feminine energy, right? And in Virgo, I think it can be about where some women are kind of tapping into that inner witchy side. I think you're going to see some pharmacists that are going to rebel, and they're going to say, I'm not going to do this, right? I'm not going to not give people information about something. You're going to see some doctors that are going to rebel, or nurses that are going to rebel. And I put my money on it. I think it's going to happen. And it's definitely going to rock relationships, because you may see some people say, are you with me? Because 19 degrees is about partnership. So there's going to be some Jerry Maguire moments that are going to be like, who's coming with me? Because I'm not doing this. And Virgo can be about, with the trines to Uranus, unions. It could be nurses unions. It could be, you know, people who are in the service industry, because they're not going to want to go along with what they're going to want them to go along with. I'll just leave it at that. And I'm looking at the trines that day to the moon Uranus, where we're already feeling a little testy and a little rebellious, and people are kind of pushing back. Those of you guys who are into, you know, I would say like natural remedies or herbal remedies, or, you know, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, kitchen craft, this is going to be a day that's going to be like, what can I whip up that could potentially help? And if you don't have a friend that's an herbalist, if you don't you know anything about this, go and join groups. Part of Uranus and Taurus is about joining groups and, you know, meeting farmers at farmers markets and talking to people who practice natural remedies, talking to aromatherapists, talking to people who do frequency healing. These are the people that are going to be the most helpful moving forward. So you might tap into that actually on this particular day. At the same time, I also feel inclined to say that, you know, Mercury is now very much associated with Venus. And we're going to see Mercury doing a dance with Mars and also with the Sun through Scorpio. So this is going to be about purification, detoxes, cleanses, exorcisms, like removing things, removing toxins. I've been a big champion for talking to people about heavy metal cleanses, because it's crazy the effects that it has on your cognitive function. It's crazy getting some of that stuff out of your diet and not eating things that are processed or canned, how different you feel. Using detox powders and other you know, supplements to get rid of parasites, to get rid of heavy metals is like, it's crazy. And so I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, how do I remove something from my diet to better my immune system? Because all these planets through Scorpio are all trining Pisces. And Saturn and Pisces is about the immune system. Neptune is about viruses. And this is going to be a huge theme. Now, out in the world, okay, there's financial stuff going on in October. Like, October is no joke. All these planets going through Scorpio, the final lunar eclipse in Taurus. You're going to see big stuff revolving around banking. And Venus at the time, like I said, in Virgo, kind of sandwiched between an opposition to Neptune and coming into a trine with Uranus is going to be like, well, you know, yeah, we're having these financial fluctuations, but it's because of more fear porn with health issues and potential mandates. It's because, you know, they're saying, well, we're having to issue, you know, layoffs because of this, that, and the other, or, you know, because there are such low job numbers and we didn't expect some of the things that are coming. That's probably what you're going to hear. But also I wonder how much of this is environmental. After all, Virgo is about civil servants. Are we starting to hear about the future of environmental and carbon tax and limitations with travel, right? Limitations also with, you know, where we can go, what we can do, what we're buying, what we're spending, and where there's orchestrated shortages for things. If you guys have been following this stuff in independent media for the last year, there has been an insane amount of plants that have burned down, agricultural things going on, you know, culling herds, a fight for getting rid of cattle, getting rid of dairy. To each their own, right? You don't want to eat that stuff, that's fine. And I'm all about having like a healthy environment, but I'm wondering if there's like some kind of connection here where if people can't have some of these things and we start to see coordinated attacks on certain types of food and higher prices of gasoline where we're going to be, you know, having to send food places, we're looking at having some issues, definitely having some issues. Now, that conjunction to Lilith, watch for the wild side to come out. 2 days later, Venus is going to pick up a trine to Uranus, which is retrograde. And this is about sudden changes in relationships, right? We can, you know, opt to do something different for date night. Maybe somebody surprises us with something and makes us dinner. Maybe we change our sense of style. We have a new haircut. Something like that. But Venus, once again, is still in its detriment. So we've got, or excuse me, it's fall. We've still got some uncomfortable things going on with Venus. And so I've told a lot of people, this Venus in Virgo transit, unless you happen to be a Venus in Virgo or you have a bunch of planets in Virgo, you're a Virgo rising, I would wait until Venus gets into Libra before doing any significant changes to your appearance, to your aesthetics, to your hair. I would just hold back a little bit because the changes that come you may not like. They may be something that happens too quickly, too fast, because this is at a 21 degrees. So there's going to be some sudden growth of whatever is changing that we're not crazy about. And Venus is also going to come into an opposition with Neptune, which means we're going to be like, it didn't look like the picture. You know, you go to the hairstylist and get your hair done, and then you wind up looking like Cookie Monster. It doesn't look like the picture, you know. That's probably what people are going to be saying. So watch for those changes in regards to resources, money, all that stuff. In the background, once again, Mercury and Mars are still moving side by side. So when people start to realize like, oh, things are really getting more expensive, or, you know, there is more challenges revolving around job loss, or, you know, people are not able to rely on credit cards so much, and we start to really feel by the end of the month, the financial pressure, because Taurus is what we possess, it's what we own, and the 8th house is what we owe. This is debt, this is car notes, this is student loans, credit cards, right? This is where we start kind of looking at things being like, oh, I wasn't aware that the interest was going to be that high, or that I was hitting my maximum on my credit card. Then we're going to get to the 2nd, which will be Venus in conjunct the North Node. And, you know, I should say, you know, in the background, the North Node ruled by Mars, and Mars being in one of its ruling signs is very strong. So Mars is going to have a lot more strength. There's going to be a lot more packing a punch with Mars than there is with Venus. So then Venus on the 2nd is going to in conjunct the North Node, 24. Notice there was like a 12, now there's a 24. So this is like also like what's going on that we can't see, 24. That's affecting, you know, health, what's happening here. Why is money dissipating? Why is health dissipating? Why aren't they, opposition to Neptune, responding to my calls? You know, why did they ghost me? Why am I on my own? What's wrong with me? Venus in conjunct the North Node. So there can definitely be this feeling of really looking around at the end of October, beginning of November, being like, why am I reaching for love that, you know, doesn't feel good, or food that isn't truly fulfilling, or a job that really isn't in alignment? Also a day that you don't want to sleep on. I think that the two in conjuncts between Venus and Chiron and also the North Node are actually going to bring up some bigger issues. Yeah. So then the next day, Venus will oppose Neptune. And this is about, first of all, scams. Definitely scams. Scams in terms of, you know, what we're buying and what we think we're getting, but it doesn't look like the picture. People who could stand people up, money that goes missing, overly idealizing someone or something, and our expectations not being met, right? And kind of being like, I thought this was going to be amazing and like romantic. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that so clearly. And I definitely think we're going to be hearing more about, like the debt and the budget, because you have all these planets going through here that are making oppositions where I'm not as optimistic that things are going to get easily worked out as what some people may be. You know, I know here in the States, the Speaker of the House got kicked, but somebody's still going to have to run for that position. And, you know, a lot of people seem to be either unaware or in denial, and they're too busy consumed with left or right politics that they're not really seeing so clearly that there's a uniparty. That's really what's going on here. So it's not left versus right. It's more the big people screwing the little people. And if some of these things continue and they can't come up with some real solutions for handling our mismanaged spending, coming up with solutions for cutting things, back or down. And the truth is we're coming into an election year. So it's like, I don't think they really want to do some of the things that they know they have to do, like, raising rates or, tapping into resources that they really should not be tapping into, or, cutting back on spending, or tapping into like other, other departments. It's just, I think it's going to be quite challenging. And I feel like I am going to be me personally, very skeptical of whatever is going on with love and money related things around the 3rd, because not everything is what it seems, right? So then we take this to the 6th. And on the 6th, we're going to see Venus start coming into a trine with Pluto. So it does kind of end on a better note, right? Venus trine Pluto can be powerful, relationships and alliances. It is about, coming out of a period of, we didn't have enough, we had crisis, where is the assistance, or like, what are we going to do? But this also makes me feel very like, oh, government's going to step in, or, a higher power is going to kind of step in, or something's going to tempt you back. Strings attached with Pluto. Remember, Pluto's direct now. So Pluto's just chugging along. It's heading back towards the late degrees of Capricorn. And I am weary of the solution that is being offered, or the support or the assistance that is being offered here personally. Because once again, we're seeing a lot of degrees either at like 12, 24, 28. These are all Cancer and Pisces degrees. So it is things that are playing on our emotions, on our feelings. There's no coincidence that I think it went up to like the final hour with, that negotiation for the budget here in the United States. And everybody's like on pins and needles going, what's going to happen? The government's going to shut down, and they make a deal, right? And we have other like little scare tactic things that are going on because, if we're all freaked out and worried and concerned about what's going to happen, we're more likely to, feel like we need somebody to step in and kind of like protect us. That's that 28 degrees. So when Venus hits 28, it's coming out of the opposition with Neptune. It's trining Pluto, where there is some kind of maybe change or transformation of resources. And we're going to see Venus hit 29 degrees, which for me is like nails on a chalkboard. So it might feel like do or die type of situation on the 7th, going into the 8th. So all day on the 7th, Venus is at 29 degrees. And then on the 8th, she moves into Libra. So we've got Venus in Libra, Mars in Scorpio, right? So we've at least got the Mars-Venus kind of in better aspects in correlation with the North Node. Eventually, yes, you are going to see Venus come into contact with the South Node. And we're going to see a rather unaspected Venus, because Venus is not really going to be making any aspects to any trines or any sextiles really to anything in the sky. She's going to be kind of like duking it out with Uranus and with Neptune and with Pluto. So we'll talk about that more next month when Venus makes that ingress. But yeah, I think that this adds a whole other layer to what we are needing to pay attention to. And like I said, that South Node in Libra is what isn't working, where we're not getting the support. And whether that's you calling the friend when you're in need, or, you know, feeling like you usually have the support of resources from a partner and they don't got it this month, or, you know, feeling like, hey, you know, I'm willing to part with things. I'm willing to donate services. I'm willing to donate time. I'm willing to help people in need. It's going to be really important if you guys are able to do that. And equally, if you're seeking support, knowing that when Venus is picking up some of those trines to Jupiter and to Uranus, that the key is going to be working with knowledgeable people, Jupiter and Taurus, who are really solid analysts or agriculturists or healers, right? Who really can look at the numbers, Virgo, can crunch the data and the information and go, this is really the state of things the way that it is. And it's gonna conflict with what certain powers that be want us to believe is true, Saturn. And it's also going to be some stuff that is potentially going to be unclear. So it pays to be prepared. I hope that gives you guys a little bit of like food for thought. Some of the 12 sign predictions that I'm going to make for you guys are a little, dare I say, repetitive, because you guys probably saw it in the horoscopes, I would assume, and you guys also probably saw this with the eclipse video that I did in Libra. So where the eclipse video was more what house the eclipse is in, this is going to be more what houses, you know, Venus moving through. What do you need to be mindful of through this Venus transit for each and every one of the 12 signs? So I'm going to pull that out for you guys now. Please listen to your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. Personally, I like to listen to my rising sign first, followed by my sun sign and then my moon sign, but that's just me. You guys can choose your own adventure. You are also welcome to listen to your progress chart if that's something that you like to listen to, if you feel like that's really helpful for you. I'm a Western astrologer, and I will be using the whole sign housing method. You can totally use this method, by the way, because Venus will go from 0 to 29 degrees. So if you're somebody who likes to use Placidus, you can. If you're looking at certain planets Venus ingressing into certain houses or coming into contact with certain planets, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some tarot too in honor of having Venus in a Mercury-related sign, because it helps to kind of double down with the prophecies, right? All right, so we're going to start with my Aries rising. What's going on, guys? So you have Venus that's moving through your 6th house. Let's pull this up here. Venus is going to be spending about a month in your 6th house. And this is going to be bringing lots of focus to your habits, your daily routine, right? Your office space. Take into consideration that Venus rules relationships with others and also money, resources, and self-esteem. Also food. I could see some Aries and Aries risings wanting to find more support when it comes to their health or when it comes to their daily habits. So pharmacists, working with a nutritionist, working with a trainer, working with a relationship coach or a counselor can come up here as well, because of the connection to your 7th house, where there's certainly lots of action that's going on. It also might mean that you have a new accountant, or you have a new female coworker, or somebody comes in and brings sweets into the office. Something like that can definitely happen. For me, this is about how you are organizing your relationships and like how you're tending to these relationships more, adding a little bit more sweetness into your daily routine and trying to find better support for your health and your habits. The card that I got for you is the 7 of Cups, which is interesting. This is about choices, clouded judgment, many options, too many opportunities, wishful thinking, disarray, indecision, and searching for purpose. So I could definitely see that. I could also see this as like being like, oh, drinking a little too much, eating a little bit too much sweets, indulging a little bit too much, the effect that it has on your mind and not knowing how to gain more clarity, right? For me, I think that this is about simplifying things. The 6th house is like get down to basics. So if you feel overwhelmed with too much, ask somebody who can help you be able to kind of get some of these things in order so you're feeling like you're actually making some headway, right? Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on for you, my Tauruses? Well, Venus rules your chart. So you are one of the 3 signs that is going to be impacted the most by this transit. Taurus, the Venus ingress is happening in your 5th house, right? And it is moving through a fellow sister Earth sign. So especially if you are anywhere between like the 12, 13, 14 degrees of Taurus, or the 20, 21, 22, 23, you're going to have some aspects that will be trining, right? And Venus likes being in the 5th house. This is the part of the sky that deals with happiness, children, creativity, dating, your love life, all that stuff. So as Venus moves into the 5th house, you're feeling more inclined to have a date night, to spend time with your kids, to play games, to take chances, to be creative. That's the good news. The challenge here is that Venus is facing some rather difficult aspects to Saturn as well as Neptune. So I could see this as needing to focus and prioritize more on your own happiness. You might be a little bit more self-critical. You might also have a hard time, being kind or loving with yourself. It can be a time also where you need to take yourself out on a date. You need to buy yourself flowers. You need to do something artistic or creative, so that way you're kind of handling some of the issues revolving around not always feeling the support from other people a little bit better. The 5th house is self-love. So I feel like the more that you're doing this, the easier the month is going to go. And Venus also, has associations with your 6th house. So it can also mean that there's changes with your habits and how you have fun. The South Node there is kind of saying, like, you might have a partner that's like, I'm not drinking anymore, or, I'm going to the gym, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And you're like, well, how are we going to have fun? Especially the oppositions to Saturn or Neptune. And I think that this is about finding more healthier ways to be able to kind of engage with either other people or how you experience pleasure. The card that I get for you is the Page of Wands, which is interesting because this can represent an Aries, a Sag, or a Leo. So this is about adventure, excitement, fresh ideas, cheerfulness, feeling more energetic, fearless, and limitless potential. And so what I like about this is that even though Venus is moving through Virgo, which is an earth sign, the 5th house is about having fun. And I think for you, this is about learning to like cut loose, not feel like you have to have an agenda, not feeling like you're bound by a certain time. I think the opposition to Saturn is being like, okay, work can wait. I need to go and have some time where I'm kind of just enjoying myself a little bit, even if that means that I have to, step away from some of my responsibilities, and being optimistic about that. Maybe like an active hobby might be a thing. I'm looking at Mars through your 6th house. Is there a way that you can have fun and also be healthy at the same time? Are you taking a dance class? Are you getting involved in sports? Something that's allowing you to kind of do both. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You're going to be experiencing Venus moving through Virgo. It'll be going through your natal 4th house. Obviously, the 4th house is home and family. But there is connections to Venus in the 5th house of children, and also the 12th house of what is hidden and subconscious. Now, for me, I really love Venus moving through the 4th house because it can be a time where you're, changing decor, maybe, showing love is like cleaning up the house, or, maybe there's a woman who's coming to stay with you or family that's coming to visit. It could be family from overseas. It could be about a female child or just a younger person coming to kind of visit. And so there could be sweet stuff going on the home front. I think the challenge here is that you do have a pretty strong opposition to Saturn and a square to your sign. So there is like a sense of going like, well, I'm supposed to be at work, and also, you know, I'm kind of needed at home. The moon is kind of triggering where there is a need to really focus on creating more pleasure and harmony at home, and that may actually pull you away from work. It might be like, hey, my mom's flying in, I got to pick her up at the airport, you know, or my sister called me and said there's something wrong with you know, the plumbing, or the dog's sick, and you come home and you go home and you take care of the pet, and that's your way of kind of handling the transit. Or a child. So, you know, someone or something in the home is going to basically need your attention, and it's about you kind of tending to that. I especially think that's true with Mercury being in the 5th house, and so you might realize, like, you know, you have a lot to appreciate with either your home or your family or someone that you're kind of taking care of throughout this transit. Definitely don't go buying furniture or art or decor with the oppositions to Saturn or Neptune. That's my advice. Wait until you see some better aspects with Venus. The card that I get for you is the Page of Pentacles. Lots of pages coming up. So pages can be younger people, can also be a Taurus, a Capricorn, or a Virgo. I wonder if it is a Virgo for some of you guys, or if maybe you have other Virgo placements in your chart. Manifestation, groundedness, ambition, offering, gifts, financial opportunities, pleasure, loyal, faithful messenger. You know, Venus in the 4th with the moon, I feel like it could be somebody coming to your house being like, I baked you a cake, or I brought you some cookies, and you're like, oh, it's cookies. And then they're like, yeah, it's gluten-free, sugar-free. And you're like, oh, these are hockey pucks, right? So there's some disappointment revolving around what you got, and then it's like, ugh. And so I think that for this, it's saying perhaps being cautious when it comes to not being appreciative of what you're being given, right? You're like, it could be worse. This can also be talking about some kind of investment that you're making into your home, or into something that you're buying for your home, or physically changing something revolving around your home, okay? Good luck, my Geminis. Cancer and Cancer rising, you're going to be experiencing Venus moving through the sign of Virgo in your 3rd house. Obviously, the 3rd house is communication, siblings, vehicles, gadgets. And Venus has connections to your 4th house of home and your 11th house of friends and goals. So Venus through the 3rd house is kind of like sweet phone calls, text messages, love letters, you know, appreciating things, editing things that you love, working on podcasts or blogs that you love, writing thank you notes. That could be happening. It could be a female friend coming to help you move. It could be a heart-to-heart conversation you have with a friend or a family member. It could be that you find love in your neighborhood. It might mean that if you're looking to move, you find the perfect place, but it's a little bit further away than you wanted it to be. It might mean that also there is some kind of support that may come from like a conversation that you have with somebody. That's the other way that I could look at this. But it's bringing sweetness basically to something in regards to how you think and how you communicate with other people. I really feel like it's most positive for those of you guys who are looking to change either where you're living or something about a vehicle. The opposition obviously is a little tricky because, you know, Saturn rules relationships. So I do think that what it's starting off with is like somebody maybe at a distance checking in with you, letting you know like, hey, I'm thinking about you, but you can't physically be together. Can it mean that there is a little bit of a rift that you have with a sibling? Yeah, so I would watch out for that as well. You're going to see in the weeks ahead, as we see a lot of activity in the 4th house, lots of change when it comes to home, family, and your emotions. And so I think this is the beginning process of starting to kind of work through that phase. And you might feel iciness from a certain someone, or you may not get the response that you want from a certain someone, right? But you want to be paying more attention to maybe being appreciative of what you've got. Telling people how much you appreciate them and how much you care for them when you can. The card that I get is the King of Swords. I think that's awesome. To me, it's about, I think, maybe being more assertive in communicating and telling somebody what you think. But it can also be like, hey, this isn't working for me. King of Swords is about mental clarity, intellectual power, truth, authority, reason, discipline, high standards, head over heart, integrity, serious, and strict. Head over heart, very Venus and Virgo, right? This also can be about a Gemini, Aquarius, or a Libra, okay? And having some kind of communication with them. I wonder if this is also like a difficult heart-to-heart that you have with somebody and just telling somebody straight up, like, this isn't working for me. I love you, but I need this from you, or I need to feel love this way, or I just need to get this off my chest. And so the King of Swords is really good at being able to kind of like really tap into that and get the point across in a very direct way. Good luck, Cancer. We got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing Venus's move through the sign of Virgo in your natal second house, which is all about finances, your possessions, money, resources, and self-esteem. Well, Venus is happy in the second house, so she does well there. Venus obviously has connections to communication and, getting around town and how you talk to people, how you think, especially to partners or siblings. It also has connections to your 10th house, which deals with your status or your career. What's tricky is that I think you're learning to be like, I need more. Okay, I need more than what people can give me. Venus in the second house is saying, like, I need to feel like I'm secure. I need to feel valued. I need to feel like I have enough when it comes to, my things. And kicks off with an opposition to Saturn, which represents partners and what other people don't have. And so on one hand, you can be feeling abundant, but you're like, yeah, but it's, I'm having to, help my partner, or I'm having to share a piece of the pie with, someone else, or the money's coming in, but it's going towards what I owe, or it's going towards a mortgage, or, there's a lot of give and take here. You may experience a situation where you have to tell somebody no, or I'm not going to cover it, or just because I can doesn't mean I will. And you're in a really strong period as Venus goes through your second house, where it's going to trine all of these planets in your 10th house, where you're learning that when you're reorganizing something about your wealth or your resources, or you're realizing your worth, you're not settling for less than what you deserve, and you're learning to really be adamant about bringing in the love or the resources that you deserve. And like you start to really see the fruit of your labor start to kind of pay off. I will say that when Venus starts to come into opposition with Neptune, you may see this again where somebody's asking for some assistance, or somebody's saying that they need assistance or help or a handout. And you'll have to decide whether or not you can trust that situation. I'd be very careful throughout this transit in particular, with investments or making big purchases or, loaning money. Like, all of that gets a little sticky. So just be mindful of that as you move through this transit, Leo. The card that I get for you is the Ace of Swords. So I definitely think it's about using your words. I wonder if it's about contracts, honestly, with like the solar eclipse in your third. Selling something, negotiating something, buying something, signing an agreement. Ace of Swords is breakthroughs, truth, insight, new ideas, vision, focus, mental clarity, and success. And I think you're one of the signs that's really going to benefit the most, because you're having Venus move through the second house and you're experiencing Earth trine. So like the more that you're getting something about your value or your resources in order, like the better it's going to serve you. So it's about telling people what's up, and watch for those opportunities to have conversations about what you can and cannot cover. Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. Obviously, this is significant for you because it's happening in your sign. And like I said, you're kind of like the secret vice president to all of the energies going on with the eclipses for Libra and Taurus. So let's talk a little bit about Venus going through your sign, right? So Venus in the first house is great for health. It's great for, personal appearance. It's great for attraction and, being desired, right? You're going to look better. You're going to carry yourself better. You're going to be a little bit more diplomatic. So that in itself is great. Venus has connections to your second house, and that can be about your personal resources, your habits and spending, and also your 9th house, which is about higher belief system, education, and travel. Now for you, Virgo, this is all about self-confidence and self-esteem. Loving yourself even when you're not feeling like you're getting recognition or a pat on the back from other people. This transit is going to kick off with an opposition to Saturn, so you may not be feeling the love with someone. You might be feeling a little rejected. You might be feeling a little lonely. Saturn standing in opposition to your sign and Neptune standing in opposition to your sign is where you're having to kind of persevere in the face of not hearing back from clients or not having the support from a partner always, or not always getting the recognition that I think that you deserve. It is going to be beneficial as you see trines to Jupiter and Uranus, because you might look at this and go, if I'm not getting what I need, I'm moving on, or I'm traveling, or, you know, I'm changing something about where I'm living, like I'm on to bigger, better things. And the trine to Pluto also can have you having a breakthrough when it comes to self-love and also your own creativity. Obviously, the eclipses and the connection to your second house is about learning to let things go. And I think that that's so true with Venus in opposition to Saturn. This isn't healthy for me. I got to let you go. And so it might be about turning the way that you look at this around. Because for me, it's a lot of like, they're not leaving me, I'm leaving them, right? It's like, no, don't get it twisted. You're not good for me, or this isn't good for me, or this isn't working for me. And so it's not that you're not talking to me. I'm not going to be fixated on what I'm not getting. I'm putting a stop to this. And I don't know what that thing may be. Okay, it's going to be different for all of you guys, but it's about how you look at it and learning to kind of put yourself first. And your philosophy about life changing. Some of you guys might be like, I didn't think I was going to get divorced, but like I'm better off. Or, you know, I didn't think I was going to go back to school at 40, but, you know, I found my passion and here I go. Or I never saw myself relocating across the country. I don't have a plan, but it's going to be exciting. You know, there is a sense of being optimistic about what the future holds and the willingness to kind of like let it all go. You get the World card, which I like it a lot. Completion, integration, accomplishment, world travel, bigger picture, evolution, fulfillment, harmony, sense of belonging. Don't you love it when the tarot lines up pretty bang on with what the astrology says? That's a good one. With Jupiter and Uranus in your 9th house, you're like, you know what? I'm clearing stuff out. I'm learning that life can change. It's okay. I can adapt, like, you know, and learning lessons and clearing out some kind of karma opposition to Saturn. So you're learning these lessons after what's probably been a rather introspective summer with like a retrograde in Leo, Venus retrograde in Leo, Mercury retrograde in Virgo, all these oppositions to the 7th house. It's like, okay, needing to kind of integrate and focus more on oneself. Good luck, Virgo. We got Libra and Libra rising. What's going on, Libra? Obviously, you know, this is important for you. You, Taurus, and Virgo, you guys are all feeling this the most. Venus rules your chart, Libra, and you've got Venus that will be moving through the sign of Virgo in your 12th house. And so this is going to be a lot about private healing, retreat, rest, recuperation, faith, spiritual practice, right? 12th house. And it's interesting because I think a lot of Libra risings, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking on behalf of us, probably feel a lot of like, oh, shift is coming. And starting to take actions before it happens, because you've got Mercury, Mars, the South Node, the Sun. It's like, I know that I need to make this change, and it's like sitting with it, right? So while Venus, your chart ruler, is in the 12th house, you're working behind the scenes, you're tweaking things, you're needing alone time, you're resting more, you're studying, you're praying, you're doing some kind of spiritual work. This is quite the opposite of what traditionally Virgo is about. You're learning that rest and recuperation is a necessary piece of the puzzle when it comes to health. So this is mental health, spiritual health, rest, your bedroom. Venus also has connections to the 8th house, which is about, joint resources, psychological stuff, taxes, inheritance, intimacy, transforming, letting things go. So this is going to be interesting for you, Libra, because, you know, Venus is really strong, obviously, in your chart. So when Venus starts making trines to Jupiter, it could bring more money in, but it could be through like an inheritance or like a joint partnership or a spouse or through an insurance matter. Venus trine Uranus is going to be a sudden change in regards to joint assets. And then the trine to Pluto can be very powerful. I hate saying this, but this goes hand in hand with the eclipses in the 8th house. There's some big financial things changing, and it somehow is connected to property, real estate, or joint resources. So what could be somebody's loss could be your gain, but it might make you emotional, sentimental, and retreat a little bit, right? And then the connection to the eclipses in the 1st house is supporting the physical body, and the best way to do that is through connection with the spirit, right? So while Venus is in the 12th house, healing centers, temples, foreign lands, meditation, prayer, all of these things can be helpful in moving through this, helping the collective. You also get the 7 of Cups, which I am not surprised. Watch for that opposition to Saturn. That one's going to be the challenging one because it might be about having to focus more on your mental health than your schedule and your routine. Saturn does represent home and family, so it can be either about a pet matter or a family member health issue and some separation, right? But the 7 of Cups for me here is about illusions, and I think it's about mental health. I think it's about your dreams. I think it's about feeling indecisive and like not knowing which way a situation is going to play out. And there's a storyline here about how you're having or experiencing changes with relationships with other people. And so maybe you're taking space from other people, right? That could be happening. Don't let all of the indecisiveness and the disarray and all of the things that are kind of clouding your thoughts get in the way right now. Try to get into a place where you can be cool, calm, and collected, and also kind of clearing out things that might be affecting your health, but it's going to come through habits. So it can be through alcohol, it can be through drugs, it can be addiction, it can be work schedules, things like that. Good luck. Sorry about that. I have a very naughty Frenchie. He's a Libra, so he was like, I do not accept that. All right, so we got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You're going to be experiencing Venus moving through Virgo. It's going to be going through your 11th house. This for you is really putting an emphasis on bringing sweetness to connection to other people, right? To your networks, to your friends. It can also be allies. It can be collaborations with other people, right? So interesting for you because, it does sextile your ascendant, so it is supportive in that sense. But Venus rules the 12th house where you've got gangbuster of planets, and there's like a huge clearing going on for you in terms of past life karma with relationships, subconscious dumps, crazy dreams, things going on where like all these insecurities and things that are coming up in regards to relationships. And also Venus rules your 12th house. So my Scorpios, the first eclipse is going to be clearing out the subconscious. The second one is going to be about big relationship shifts for good or for bad, right? I look at this as like where you really need good friends who can help support you and remind you of how amazing you are and how loved you are. Even if you're not always feeling the love, there can be a reminder that can come from a group or a friend that can let you know. Obviously, Venus ruling your 7th house, coming in opposition with Saturn. I really feel like this is more about a partner telling you or a client telling you that, they're having an issue with a friendship. It could be that they're having an issue with another, a friend's telling you that, they're having an issue with their romantic life, or they're, upset that they haven't maybe heard from you, and like there's like a rift in the relationship, and you're like, what? You are a bit invisible now because there's a lot of planets in your 12th house, so you're not really being seen quite yet. And that's going to be very different when Sun, Mars, Mercury comes into your sign and it starts opposing all of this stuff. So maybe there is some things changing about the way that you look at relationships, one that you're in or one that you've been in behind the scenes, and you're anticipating getting ready to make some changes in a relationship, and you're talking to a friend about it, or maybe you're talking to them about your insecurity and, being afraid of getting back out there or meeting someone. Regardless of how we cut it, you need support from other people. And I think the fact that Venus is connected to the 12th house, you might have a friend that's like, I have a really great therapist, or I have a really great healer, or let me connect you to someone. or a hypnotherapist that can help you move through some of this stuff. So you're not feeling stuck and you're not feeling like, unlovable with Venus in opposition to Saturn. I am liking the trines that will come to your 7th house because it can bring in more clients. It can bring in relationships through social settings. It can help get you out and about a little bit more and connect with people who can be really good for you. The card that I get for you is the 8 of Swords. That sounds about right. Self-imposed prison of thoughts, limiting and negative thoughts, victim mentality, trapped, helpless, powerless, and feeling stuck. But this is mental. Swords are kind of associated with air. So I see like the Mercury, Sun, Mars. I've seen a lot of Scorpio risings that are like, I'm never going to meet anybody. I'm never going to find a partner. Or I never want to. Or like they're always horrible. And what's going on is there's this like clearing out, right, of all of the things mentally that inhibit you from being able to feel connected to people. And if you're in a relationship and you're going round and round in some of the same issues, it's like, oh, I'm never going to be able to escape this. This is just going to keep happening. I'm never going to be able to get out of this. And you've got an eclipse that's going to be coming in your 7th house. So at the end of October, there is like a sense of finally having a breakthrough, whether that's seeking freedom or leveling up in the current relationship, meeting somebody new. Any of these things are possible. But it's all about your frame of mind. And I think you need somebody who's going to come in and remind you of what you're capable of or what your worth is, so you're not settling for less or holding yourself back, right? Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You'll be experiencing Venus moving through the sign of Virgo through your natal 10th house. Which is great for your goals, great for your career, great for your public reputation. You know, it can definitely make for pleasant times with interactions with bosses and higher ups and for client relationships. That's definitely a theme. Venus has connections to your 11th house of goals, and this is also how you make money from work. And it has connections to your 6th house of daily routine, health, and coworkers. So honestly, those of you guys who are Sag risings, if you're having issues and you're like, there's been some issues with, you know, people at work, or I haven't been getting along with, you know, my coworkers or my boss, like this is a time to kind of smooth some of that over and possibly focus on like team building exercises. It is possible also to be having like meetings with people. I would say bringing in like treats into the office or food into the office or flowers into the office, or maybe doing a little sprucing up also could be wonderful because of Venus's connection to the 6th. And I feel like this is about really cementing in some of your, you know, career goals and like seeing things actually work together harmoniously. So whether you've switched departments or you switched jobs or there's new people on the job, something like that can be happening. It's like restoring the balance and everything kind of coming back together and working together. The challenge is that, you know, the opposition to Saturn is not many people are seeing what's going on behind closed doors with you right now. And you have all these planets, you know, beneath the chart that is really saying there's a lot of sacrifices that are being made with Venus in opposition to Saturn, and not spending time at home, or some heavier moods, or time away from your family, or not being able to kind of get things done on an emotional level because you're so focused on what's going on with work. And it seems a little stressful because it's in a sign that is squaring you. The positive is that when Venus starts picking up a trine to Jupiter, you're going to realize that a little bit of sweetness goes a long way at work, and it really can kind of help the flow and the harmony of either your co-working space, or even just, you know, part of showing up and having better health is taking care of yourself and knowing when to be like, I'm not eating this, or I am going to the gym, or I am making time to, you know, take care of this thing. Love very much is a verb for you in the 10th house, and it's all about what you're tending to, what you're nurturing, even if that means yourself, right? Or other people. That could be happening here as well. It'd be really great for clients, for a lot of you guys. It is also possible that there is something going on where there are some changes with your friends And there's eclipses here and stuff conjunct the South Node. And so it might have you kind of swinging into being like, that's going on. I'm focusing more on my career or what I can be managing and not kind of getting sucked into some of the stuff that can be happening within some of your social circles, right? Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Death card. Wah, wah. Somebody was going to get it. Might as well be you, Sag. I see this honestly as being like, you know, not everybody at work is going to be your friend. Or maybe you're there to be the boss. You're not there to necessarily be friendly. The Death card is about a definitive ending, but also a beginning. So this is about death and rebirth, big changes, time to move on, transformations, transition, letting go, release, starting anew. So it tells me that maybe there's something new happening at work. It could be a new job. It could be new services that you're offering. It could mean that you're not focusing so much on working with other people. You're like, I want to do my own thing. Like I'm trying to work on my own proposals or I'm trying to work on my own clients. I'm not building with other people right now. I'm focusing on what I can put out there for me, which is good because you're going to catch a lot of attention with this. And watch for some of the sweetness to be coming in when you have trines to Jupiter and also Uranus. I've seen a lot of like Sag risings who have been doing more than one thing. Like the last couple of months with the retrograde in your 10th house had you thinking like, do I have an online store? Do I have a side hustle? Do I have another business? Am I doing dog walking? Am I catering? Like, you know, am I making time for another business so I can be starting to kind of strategize my exit from what I've been doing, right? Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You are going to be experiencing Venus moving through your natal 9th house through the sign of Virgo. It is in a fellow earth sign, so it will be trining you one way or another, which I like. I like this for you, Capricorn. The 9th house is all about your beliefs, legal matters, education, travel, love at a distance, right? This can be about working with people in faraway places or foreign lands. That's possible here as well. So Venus moving through here can be a wonderful time to be like, yeah, connecting with somebody at a distance, maybe planning a trip. The challenge is that you're going to get hit right off the bat with Venus in opposition to Saturn. So somebody might be proposing something or offering something and you're like, no, like you're immediately throwing down at the beginning of the transit and saying to somebody, I'm not ready to talk, or, you know, I don't believe in that, or, you know, I can't be there. You're kind of digging your heels in a little bit. Venus's connection also to your 10th house is about your career and your status, and your 5th house, which is about creativity and your happiness. So the positive is that you're going to see trines that are going to be taking place between Taurus and also, you know, Pluto in your sign. So it can be a time where there's lots of action, believe it or not, because these houses deal with things that bring life, that bring romance, that bring adventure, they bring travel. And some of you guys might be kind of like realizing like, you know what, my belief system is changing. Maybe I don't necessarily need to be super focused on what's going out in the world or my career or traveling. Maybe I'm happy where I am right here. Maybe I am focusing more on my home. Maybe I'm focusing more on my, you know, creative projects or my children or, you know, some new business that I'm starting. So Venus going through here can actually signify that there can be like a teacher or a mentor that can come in that can help you change your perspective or your outlook on things. I would be careful with like legal stuff or like lawsuits through here because this is not ideal. Like you may not have the best relationships with lawyers or attorneys or bosses even. So there can be a sense of like, you know, somebody asking you if you can come into the office and you're like, I don't want to have to come in today. And they're like, well, I'm not there. You know, I need you to take care of something. That can happen as well. Anyway, for the most part, it's great for, I think, shifts in regards to your belief system, especially when it comes to how you look at work. And it might have some of you guys thinking about planning a trip or traveling. It might have some of you guys also thinking about ceremonies, graduations, and school, education, actually, believe it or not. So you might be looking at doing some like education that maybe you can do from home or you can do like at a distance. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you, Capricorn. The card that I get for you is the Hanged Man, which is so funny because Saturn is in Pisces. So it's like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to take a wait and see approach to things. You know, somebody's asking me to do something, or they're asking for something, or they're asking me to visit, and you're like a little cautious. You're like, I'm gonna see if they can do it on their own. The Hangman talks about pause, surrender, letting go, waiting, reflecting on something, wisdom, sacrifice, uncertainty, contemplation. So for me, it's like when Venus comes into the late degrees and it opposes Neptune, you know, I wonder if you're like, oh, I went back and forth with somebody at a distance and then they fall off. Or, you know, I was hoping to hear back from, you know, that teacher and they didn't get back to me. And so you have to take a wait and see method with this card. But it is talking very much about what's going on in Pisces. And I think with Saturn and Neptune in your third house, you're learning to speak less, listen more. I think you're also focusing on your day-to-day thoughts, how you communicate, writing, journaling, and reflecting on creating your own reality. So you want to be really careful about, what you're like speaking into existence, because there can be a sense of being so, fixated on thinking or communicating a certain way that it may inhibit you actually while you have the Venus-Saturn opposition of like maybe seeing another person's perspective. That's the other way to look at it. Good luck, Capricorn. We have Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing Venus moving through Virgo through your natal 8th house, which is all about joint resources, taxes, inheritances, alimony. It can also be about money owed or some kind of insurance matter. And Venus has connections to your 9th house, which can be about law and legality. So it's like, do I get a refund for travel? Do I have to invest money in retaining an attorney? Is there expenses revolving around education? Do I need loans for that? That's the kind of stuff that comes up. And Venus also has connections to your 4th house of home and family. And so I'm noticing right off the bat, the Venus-Saturn opposition is going to affect you because Saturn is your traditional ruler. So where Saturn in the 2nd house is saying, I don't have it, or I'm not giving it, or I'm not going to talk about what I have, Venus going through the 8th is like somebody needing something. And it might be about family that needs some support when it comes to their health or medical expenses, or going through some kind of sobriety or psychological issues and like needing your support on that. And it's whether or not you show up and you decide, hey, I'm going to help them or not, or I'm going to love them unconditionally, even though this might be a difficult time. If you're going through some issues with finances or self-esteem or doubting yourself, likely you might have somebody who shows up and says, I've got you, or I love you, or let me help you. That could happen. Especially as you see Venus pick up a trine to Jupiter and Uranus, there might be some extra resources that come in through some kind of joint partnership or through a loan, or you having access to somebody else's money, or being able to tap into like the value of your property if you own something. But the 8th house Venus transit, Venus is going to hell and back. So there's a transformation and a cleaning up and a purification of love. Right, basically. So it's not an easy task when Venus goes through this part of the sky. I think probably the sweetest aspect is going to be when Venus comes into trine with Uranus, because you're going to realize, like, you know what? Finances change, relationships change, and what kind of an effect is that having on me? And where could I have some support coming from another person if I'm willing to make changes at home or within my family? But still, this is another one of the zodiac signs that does seem to have an indication of potential of either change with home, family, or some kind of like inheritance that comes up, an exchange. And this is about, karmic connections that we have to other people in the 8th house, right? So do you have to travel somewhere to do that? Does somebody need to go further away? Are you paying for somebody's travel? Are you having to deal with legal matters to kind of handle some of this stuff? The card that I get for you is the Five of Swords, which I'm not surprised. Conflict, disagreements, competitiveness, unfair defeat, winning at all costs, stress, hostility, aggression, bullying, and intimidation. I feel like for you, you know, there's been several months of Venus retrograde in your 7th. And now Venus goes into your 8th house where somebody might say, well, I want something. And you have to decide after all the back and forth if you're going to give it up. So could somebody be bullying you about a home or a property or, you know, some kind of possession? Yeah. You know, does it mean that you have to play ball? No. I mean, I think that you have action in your 9th house if you have to, but I'm also looking at the 3rd house where you're learning how to communicate and stand up for yourself and say, no, no more, not again. We're done here. It's very possible that can be kind of coming up, but I also know that the next card is the Six of Swords, and it's about going on to like more peaceful situations. So if there has been a little bit of a back and forth with somebody, it seems like you might have, you know, final words or kind of like letting them know that here is the boundary. And I imagine that you're going to look at this and go, just because we live together, just because we are family, or just because we're roommates or partners, it does not mean that, you know, I'm going to continue to keep having this dynamic. And you'll see that very early on with the Saturn-Venus opposition, I would assume. Good luck. We have Pisces and Pisces rising. You'll be experiencing Venus moving through Virgo in your natal 7th house, which is about relationships and partnerships and other people. This is an easier place to have Venus because Venus does well in the 2nd house. So it does bring you the sweetness of relationships, partnerships, clients. It can bring better relationships with coworkers also. And Venus has connections to the 3rd house, which could be siblings. And it has connections to Libra, which can be joint resources. So it is possible after like some spats maybe that you've had with a sibling, or a back and forth that you've had with a romantic partner, or a back and forth with a neighbor, that somebody's now trying to come through and be sweeter to you, right, Venus? But likely you're going to be like, nope, not good enough. The opposition to Saturn, or, you know, oh, now you finally have come around. Well, I haven't gotten over it. And you might see as Venus continues through the 7th house and it trines Jupiter and Uranus that they're reaching out to you, or they're messaging you, or they're calling you, or they're writing to you, and you're like, ugh, you know, does it work? The Venus-Jupiter connection, I think, can be lovely because it does mean that there can be a sense of like having better communication. But I know that it's going to start to wrap up with Venus in opposition to Neptune, and you may feel like it's too little too late. It can also mean that you're like, well, they're trying, but it's not like really good enough. And, you know, maybe there's a lot of like wait and see. I know the eclipses in Libra in the 8th house is doing some major clearing out of relationships for you. And there's a lot of vulnerability coming up, and there's a lot of dealing with other people's money issues coming up. And as the North Node swings through the 2nd house, you're like, my money, my resources, my self-esteem, that's really picking up strongly. And you're going to see later in the year, the Saturn sextile Jupiter is also like, you're going to realize that you may be better off independent or on your own, right? Or not relying on another person. You're also going to hear about where other people are having like self-esteem issues or financial issues, or, you know, working through things that can actually affect your relationship with them. I do feel like it's really important to be listening and be kind, and to try to be compassionate and understanding if somebody's going through some things. And probably I would assume some relationship issues can be connected to money, because the South Node is in the 8th house of other people, and eclipses are here where relationships are having issues because they're stressed about finances or paying bills or changes in their income, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate that. And then you're starting to realize that they may not be communicating very clearly with you and letting you in on that. But I would assume when Mercury and the Sun cazimi, you're going to see that they may let you in on some kind of secret, or they may talk to you about, you know, having some issues with their health or their mental health or their finances. And they may try to appeal to you and talk to you about why they've been having such a difficult time. right? So not all may be what it seems. The key here is keeping the lines of communication open and trying not to be judgmental and trying to understand where other people are coming from, but also at the same time, not lowering your standards. You can understand, but not necessarily let that back in. And it can be a make or break period for you when it comes to relationships. I think that's very much the case for Virgos and for Pisces, especially because it's happening in the first 7th house axis is that you're seeing this opposition. But Aries and Libras, you guys are seeing this as well. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you. What to be mindful of. The card that I get is the Knight of Cups. I like that. It can be a water sign, so it can be Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer. Creativity, romance, charming, imagination, idealist, grateful, artistic, tactful, diplomatic, mediator, negotiator. I think that's the case. That's very Venus in the 7th. And it might mean that, you know, if you are supposed to be having a chat with your neighbor about something, you know, they're going to be friendly about it. Or if you're supposed to be having a meeting where you negotiate a contract, or you're talking to a sibling about, you know, something that they're going through, it might be you that's a lot of like, I don't want to hear it, or, you know, I'm not available, or I'm not open to love. You know, what do you want? Something like that can be going on. And so somebody can pursue you, right, with Venus going through your 7th house. So it can be wonderful for relationships, wonderful for clients, putting stuff out there in your marketplace if you have a product that you want to sell, or if there's like a new something that you want to launch, especially like websites, blogs, YouTube channels, because you're going to see Venus trine Jupiter and Uranus in your 3rd house. So it might mean that you're like, I'm working on something, I'm not really ready for it yet, or I haven't put all the pieces together yet. But likely it'll be something that can be positive and bring in people who want to partner with you in the process. All right, guys. Well, I hope that was helpful in talking to you all about Venus's trek in the sign of Virgo. Please let me know, how do you guys feel about the transit? What are you anticipating? What do you think about some of the stuff that I kind of picked up? If you have any remedies or any recommendations, please leave them below. It's very helpful, especially if you're somebody who's in healthcare, if you work with aromatherapy, healing, if you work with crystal stuff, if you work with herbalism, all that stuff. Leave your recommendations. I know that Virgo has associations with the gut and digestion, so, you know, digestive stuff is a huge thing. For me, it's like I've been making fire cider. I'm learning how to pickle and ferment things right now. So I'm getting ready to make like sauerkraut. I already made some fermented garlic. Like I said, a big thing of fire cider for immune system stuff. And yeah, I'd love to hear some of your guys' recommendations here as well. I will be back here tomorrow. We're going to be doing live tarot readings on the channel. So catch me here 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for donation-based tarot readings. I'd love to see you here. Otherwise, if you guys want to connect with me, you want to book a personal reading with me, or you want to learn astrology or tarot, or check out any of my astrology calendars, go to beyondtheveiledtarot.com. The link's in my description below. You can see my schedule and all of the things that I offer. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter. I promise I won't spam you. I just send them out when I have new offerings and things that we're putting out on my website, or courses, so that way you guys are up to date with what we're doing. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Any interaction with this channel really helps the algorithm, right? So I'm asking all of you guys to drop me a comment or give me a thumbs up. It's really helpful. Also, you're more than welcome to join my memberships if you want to support my work as a full-time content creator, or you can donate to my PayPal. I have a donation link below if that's something that interests you. I'm wishing you guys all a happy and healthy Venus in Virgo season. I hope you receive that, because that is the key, is staying open and optimistic and taking health into our own hands. I'll catch you guys all back here very soon. Until next time, take care.